Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Merlin, Season 1, Episode 13, La Mort d'Arthur. Our episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of what happens within this episode. So we open on a hunt in the misty woods when a gigantic lizard-esque thing comes out of nowhere and looms over Arthur and Merlin, and basically them and the knights run for their lives. When they get back to the castle, they report to Uther, and Gaius lets them know that it is a questing beast that they have come across, and that questing beasts only appear at times of great upheaval. And Uther, of course, takes offense to this and decides to send Arthur and Merlin and the knights back out to hunt it. While he is hunting it, Arthur, regrettably, is bitten. And then Merlin enchants his sword and uses his magic to kill the questing beast with the flying sword. When they get Arthur back, it is discovered that the questing beast is a symbol of life and death from the old religion, and that one bite is certain death, there is no cure. But Merlin, of course, insists that he has to save Arthur because Arthur is his destiny. And so Merlin tries a few spells. They don't work. He then goes to the dragon, and the dragon says, "You know what? There's no cure, but you can give someone else's life in exchange for Arthur's life if you go to the Isle of the Blessed." So Merlin naturally goes to the Isle of the Blessed, intending to give up his life, which is the only life he really has a right to give up. And he meets Nimue on the island, who basically withholds information and is very cryptic about things, but says basically, here's a cup of life. If you drink the waters from this cup of life, you will be cured and somebody else will die. And Merlin, still under the impression he's giving up his life, agrees to their bargain. And so Nimue makes it rain and then pours the rain that's gathered in the cup into another vessel, which Merlin then takes back, and they feed it to Arthur, who wakes up. Once Arthur wakes up, Merlin goes to bed thinking he's not going to wake up the next morning, but when he does, he's super happy about it, except regrettably during the night, his mother arrived in Camelot, and she is covered in pustules and blisters and is critically ill and dying. Which is when he realizes that the life Nimue decided to take was not his as he had bargained, but his mother's, and this, of course, is something he cannot tolerate, so he goes around saying all of his goodbyes. However, by the time he gets back, Gaius is gone and has left a very nice letter telling Merlin how he's the son he never had, and how his life is already almost over anyways because he's in his elder years, and that Merlin will be more valuable, and so he has gone in Merlin's place to give his life to save Hunnis instead of Merlin having to give his. Merlin, of course, is like, this is not okay with me, confronts the dragon about, his mother's life and everything, and discovers that the dragon was fully aware of what was about to happen, and so decides to never see him again. Goes back to the Isle of the Blessed, where Nimue is in process, or has just finished, killing Gaius. And Merlin, of course, is very angry at this and starts a magic battle with her. She, of course, is also very powerful. She is a high priestess of the old religion, and so she fires back. And Merlin eventually gets hit in the chest, and we think, oh, maybe he's done. And this is how our series ends, because this is the finale of the first season. But actually, no, he wakes up, he connects more deeply with his power than he ever has before, and he sends lightning down to strike Nimue. And then, it's raining, she's gone poof, Gaius is still lying there, Merlin screams at the sky in regret and grief, and then Gaius wakes up. They have a cute moment where Gaius makes a joke, and then they end smiling in the rain. While this is going on, Morgana's having multiple nightmares. When Nimue dies, the dragon is very angry in his cave, lashing out alone. And of course, though we don't see it, Huneth is believed to be okay now because Gaius had already given up his life for hers before Merlin got there. Anyways, that's our finale in a nutshell. Which brings us now to our rankings part of the segment. Oh, that didn't come out right. Anyways, this is the part of the video where we rank the episodes on our two lists, our mostly objective ranking list, which is void emotion, but bias and judgment may still apply, and the personal ranking, which is the emotional response to the episode and overall opinion of the episode. So we'll start, of course, with our mostly objective rank values, and because it is the finale, there are quite a few that apply, as it should be. So first off, we of course have our multi-episode supporting character development, which is that Nimue has become a deceased individual in this episode, which is kind of depressing because I like Nimue as a character. She's very briefly seen, but when she is seen, I do enjoy the scenes, and so obviously I'm disappointed that she died. We then have our multi-season supporting character development, which is of course Gaius going to give his life for Huneth. And then, his letter that reveals how highly he thinks of Merlin and that Merlin's the son he never had. We, of course, have Huneth developing her disease. So a few different developments for multi-season supporting characters. And that brings us to 5 points so far. We then have our impactful, memorable, moment line, etc., which is, of course, the way that So, the magic battle, quite epic. The way that Merlin kills Nimue with the lightning is epic. It is so memorable. It's one of the things that I've always remembered about this series, and I was like, what season does that happen in again? Apparently, this finale of season 1. But it's very memorable, very awesome. So, I would say it is both memorable and impactful. And therefore, it is, of course, worth 3 points. We then have our multi-season main character development, which of course is Arthur's near-death experience. He is bit by the questing beast and almost dies. We then have Merlin, who goes to the Isle of the Blessed to save Arthur. Doesn't really understand what he's getting into. However, when he does kill Nimue and then Gaius revives, Gaius tells him that he's mastered the power of life and death, and that is implied to be a bit of a power boost, which remains to be seen. Luckily, there's more seasons in which we may see that, but I would still say that is a good development, so that is worth 4 points. And then lastly, we have the world building elements. We learn about the questing beast and how it basically arrives at times of upheaval, and as it embodies the power of life and death. One bite will lead you to die with no cure. And we also learned that water from the cup of life can reverse death and save a life. However, because the world requires a balance, a life must be taken in response. That one's more of an honorable mention because we did learn that in an earlier episode as well when we were talking about Arthur's conception and birth and how it was his mother's life in exchange for his. But that's still 4 points for the questing beast's mere existence. And that brings us to the end of our positives, which gives us 16 so far. However, there were a couple of negatives. So the first, of course, is the negative messaging and behaviors. And this is really just the unclear disclosure of terms and conditions. Honestly, if you're entering into a bargain, it is just good ethics, good morals to fully outline what the person is agreeing to, very upfront about it. Like when Merlin's giving his life, he specifically says, I give my life for Arthur's. He is giving a specific condition that he wants with a specific reward. And, instead of saying, yeah, you're too important, that's not going to happen, pick someone else, or it's going to be at random, or I refuse to take your life, so on and so forth. What Nimue says is, there's a price. Are you willing to do anything? It's not going to be how you think it is. Like, basically, really cryptic. She's not outlining exactly what's going to happen. She's not even telling him that what he thinks is going to happen isn't going to happen, not in so many words. And this, of course, leads to our whole string of people trying to sacrifice themselves for each other. Merlin wants to sacrifice for Arthur, Gaius for Huneth. Huneth kind of just gets dragged in there, and then Merlin comes back to save Gaius. It's a whole string, and this whole string didn't have to occur if she had just been clear and upfront with the terms and conditions from the start and just clearly outlined the consequences of the bargain. And you think she would have learned, because the whole reason the magic purge happened in the first place and it became illegal was because she did not disclose the terms and conditions of her deal with Uther in, having Arthur's birth in exchange for his wife's death. Like, she never learned, and she got her comeuppance, unfortunately. She did pass on in this episode because she messed with the wrong person this time, someone who actually could fight back with magic, who is more powerful than her because he is the most powerful of all time, and that was the result of it. But either way, if you are entering into any sort of bargain or deal, both sides should be as open and transparent as possible and outline all of the terms included so that people can make informed decisions, and that is why it is worth a -2 points. We then also have as a -3 points, failed emotional impact. And at first I was debating on whether to put this in here, but I was like, no, in the end it has to go there because they very clearly, whoever was writing the show, wanted to elicit certain emotions from us as audience members. And I don't think that they were successful because I did not feel the emotions they wanted me to feel. I felt very excited emotions at like the magical battle because like I said, that was epic, but there's several occasions like Arthur's almost going to die. Oh no, we're supposed to be very sad about this. Probably. Then there's, oh no, Hunnis is about to die. We're supposed to be very sad about this, I think. And then, there's, oh no, Gaius might be dead, which honestly would have gotten me if it lasted more than like 2 minutes on screen and then he's back up and running. Like, if they had dragged it out, if they had left that as a cliffhanger until the next season, I feel like that would have impacted. But basically, we find out that well, we're not even sure she's finished because she's like mid-chant when like Merlin ends up there. So it's like, did he actually end up dying or not? I wasn't even sure about that until she said something about Honeth being okay. And then I was like, okay, he's probably dead now. And then, almost immediately, Merlin's like magic back and forth for like 2 minutes. She dies, goes over to Gaius, oh no, oh no, and then he's up. And it's like, okay, well, I didn't have time to really process and grieve this. And then you were like reversing everything anyways. So again, didn't really have the impact I think it was supposed to. I did think the letter was sweet, but it wasn't really sweet enough that I was like preemptively mourning. Merlin was. He was crying. And that's why I think they were really trying to make us feel something here because Merlin was crying on screen, which I think was supposed to hint to us, you should be crying too. Like, this should be sad to you. Except, like I said, it didn't last long enough. And of course, Arthur, they were always going to save Arthur. He's one of the main characters. And Huneth could have been touch and go, but at the same time, it's like Merlin wasn't going to let that happen either. So, I don't know, it just didn't hit me. So, failed emotional impacts. But that still leaves us with 11 points, and as the maximum score is 10 out of 10, that makes this finale episode a 10 out of 10 episode, which it should be because finales should always be a little bit more special than the regular episodes, in my opinion. So, that now brings us to our season 1 rankings. So far for our mostly objective ranking, and this is the definitive list because we have now watched all of the episodes of season 1, and this is our final order on our mostly objective ranking, and it starts with The Dragon's Call, The Beginning of the End. Excalibur comes in 3rd. 4th, we have The Labyrinth of Godreth. 5th place is this episode, La Mort d'Arthur, and it is of course in 5th place because on our mostly objective ranking, when more than one episode has the same ranking, we just put it in the order it aired in. Then in 6th we have Lancelot, 7th Valiant, 8th The Poison Chalice, 9th we have The Gates of Avalon, 10th we have, The Moment of Truth. We then in 11th have To Kill the King, 12th The Mark of Nimue, and then in 13th A Remedy to Cure All Ills. Alright, so now we come into the personal rankings, and there are some things that stood out to me that really don't fit into our mostly objective ranking list. Again, I'm not going to repeat everything that I said in the mostly objective ranking list. These are things that are outside of it. But wow, did Morgana have a lot of nightmares in this episode. It was like kind of the go-to transition scene for the different parts, This happens, Morgana waking up in bed all sweaty and scared. Next scene happens. We need to go to another scene. Morgana, she's awake again, and again, sweaty and scared. She had a lot of nightmares, which obviously we know is building to like the next season because we know that her dreams are prophetic and that she does have magic and so on and so forth. So I guess they were just trying to ramp that up a bit in the finale to remind us of these facts so that they can do something with it in the future, which is great. But wow, was she having a lot of nightmares, a very hard time. Felt very bad for her. She even tries to like warn Merlin when he comes back from the Isle of the Blessed that it's only the beginning, and of course it was only the beginning because then we have Huneth, then we have Gaius, then we have Nimue dying, and a whole string of people trying to sacrifice themselves for other people. It was a task. But either way, still interesting. Uther, as I've mentioned before, I don't hate Uther as a character. I think leaders always have to make the tough choices, and he does so often. The only time that I really dislike him is when it comes to magic, when he lets his hatred of magic overrule his ability to be a good leader. But when it's not necessarily to do with magic, I feel like typically he's making good choices as a leader and understands the responsibility he holds as a leader. And he definitely, in his own way, is a caring father. I mean, like when Arthur's brought back after getting bitten, you know, despite being older and not in his prime anymore, he like picks up Arthur and goes to take him to his room, except of course he can't make it the whole way there because, he's emotionally grieving, worried, sad, scared for his son, and again, older and not in his prime anymore. And then we have, like, of course, the knights taking Arthur from him and taking him in. He stays by Arthur's bedside, even sleeping at his side when they go to try to cure him with the waters of life, and is like the first person that Arthur sees when he wakes up because he was sleeping right next to him. And this, of course, is very endearing. And he didn't do anything overly detestable in this particular episode, and so I did like Uther in this episode. I also liked the visuals of the candlelight vigil with all of the knights and some other female characters. I don't know if they're servants or townspeople, but they held a candlelight vigil for Arthur while he's, in this state of near death, which was beautiful and nice. I also loved all of the weather magic that was going on, when Nimue brings the rain into the cup to fill it, when and then, of course, her and Merlin have the little fireball back and forth fight. And then, Merlin makes it lightning strike her, and then it starts to rain. And I was like, these are some epic magics. These are the type of magic I like to see. And we don't really get a lot of epic magic. It's mostly like moving things because he has to keep it so secret. But on the Isle of the Blessed, he didn't really have to hide it. So we could get like a bigger magic and a more impressive magic, which I appreciated. I thought that was great. And they obviously put a little more into the budget for the special effects because it was the finale episode. Though, to be fair, I've mentioned it before how when they're fighting these creatures, they like literally are swinging at air, and you can see that they're swinging at air because it never looks like it actually connects to the creature when they're trying to kill it. And it was similar on this one too with the questing beast. Arthur was bitten, but all I saw was him getting scratched, and then he fell down, and then it looked like the questing beast was going towards trying to bite him before he was stabbed by the knife, like the sword that Merlin enchanted before it got to him. I didn't actually like I don't know if it was just where they positioned the CGI animal or not, but like it didn't look like he got bit. It looked like he got slashed. And so that was a thing, but very minor. Obviously, personally, I like Nimue and Merlin. I thought they would have great chemistry. And she's like, "Come join me. We can be great together. We can see all of this bright future together. I can help you. You can help the old religion. Let's team up and be pals." I was like, there's a world where I wish that could happen because I think they would be great together. But unfortunately, that is not the case. She does end up deceasing at the end of this episode. And then I also like how we kind of get some foreshadowing with Kilgara when Merlin is saying, like, going and accusing Kilgara of knowing that he was going to kill his mom to save Arthur. And Kilgara's like, well, Arthur had to live. It had to be done. You said you'd do anything. Merlin's like, I thought we were friends, which I don't know why he thought that but that aside, well, like honestly, every time he goes to Kilgara for advice, he usually ends up doing the opposite or not listening. And more often than not, their conversations sound somewhat hostile with, Merlin accusing him of riddles and stuff. So I'm like, where he got that they were friends, I don't know. That's a weird friendship to me. But anyways, he tells Kilgara, I thought we were friends. And Kilgara's like, we're far more than that. We're kin. Which anybody who knows the future of the series, which honestly it's a rewatch channel, so I hope you're okay with spoilers. If you're not, stop listening. But obviously, we know that he is the last Dragon Lord and that he finds his father, father dies. We'll talk more when we get to that episode. But I like that this is a little bit of foreshadowing of that is in here. And then, of course, it also shows that Kilgara is rather selfish and manipulative, which also is foreshadowing to his future behaviors as well. Um, Because, obviously he's like, yeah, I knew you'd kill your mother, but Arthur was more important because only if Arthur becomes king with you by his side will I, as Kilgar, me the dragon, get to be free. So he's basically like, yeah, I sent you to kill your mom because I want to be free someday, and that's only going to happen if Arthur becomes king, which, spoiler, it happens before that, so really didn't have to go and kill his mom. But I digress. And then, of course, we have to wonder, why is he so angry? Because as soon as Nimue dies, we cut to the cave where he's alone and he yells, Merlin, no! And, he's obviously very upset about her death. And it's like, were they in cahoots? Because he obviously holds a grudge as well. And I'm starting to think that these people who hold grudges on like the magical people's side of things, they I don't know that they actually care whether magic returns or not. I think they're just out for revenge for their own hurts because he's upset that Nimue died, and Nimue obviously wants magic to return, but hates Arthur, hates Uther. They just, I feel like they're acting against their own best interests, really. But then I felt like that for all magical people. I'm like, you've got a prophecy that Arthur's going to bring back your magic, and yet constantly, incessantly, always, you are working to make yourselves as hated as possible and prove that the law needs to be in place because you keep committing criminal activities and attacking the very people who make the laws with magic. Of course they're going to keep the law in place. It's just so silly. But again, there wouldn't be a show without that, so we accept it. And despite some of those things sounding like criticisms overall, I really liked this episode, and that's why I also gave it a 10 out of 10 for the finale on the personal ranking, which brings our season 1 rankings. And this is our definitive list because we have now ranked every episode in season 1 to, in first place, The Labyrinth of Godref. In second, this episode, La Morte d'Arthur. In third, we have The Poison Chalice. In fourth, The Dragon's Call. Fifth, we have The Gates of Avalon. Sixth, we have Lancelot. Seventh, we have To Kill the King. In eighth, we have The Beginning of the End. In ninth, we have Excalibur. In 10th, we have Valiant. And then we come to 11th, which is The Mark of Nimue. 12th is The Remedy to Cure All Ills. And then in 13th place, my least favorite of this season, was The Moment of Truth. Which brings us now to our final segment, which is our series rankings so far. And this is where we are going to be ranking each of our seasons against each other. And on our mostly objective ranking, the final score for season 1 was 90 out of 130, which is 69.23%. And then on the personal ranking side, the final score for season 1 was 87 out of 130, which brought us to 66.92%. And with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Merlin Season 1, Episode 13, La Morte d'Arthur. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.